In today's video, we're going to be discussing show selection and the pre-production process. Welcome everyone, and this is the first video in a series where we will be covering some information for Theater 5113 producing the high school play. Specifically, we'll be taking a look at our two textbooks, The Director's Vision by Catron and Shattuck, and Hey Kids, Let's Put on a Show by Bogman. We'll start with the book, The Director's Vision. Chapter 1 is talking about developing your directorial vision. There are three elements of theater: conflict, your opposing characters or forces; your emotion, the feeling of the show and its characters; and then the entertainment value, which is the appeal to the audience and how they connect with the characters. The thing that unifies all of these is the dramatic action. What do the characters want and need, and how do they get it? What's important here is you need to have an overall vision of what's going to be going on in the show, but you also need to be flexible about it. There are going to be other members of your production team that have their own ideas for the best way to execute things. If you stick to your guns every single time, you may be missing out on some opportunities to make something that is really collaborative and beautiful. So be willing to take a risk on taking advice from other people. Chapter 2 takes a look at the role of the director. The director has 5 main functions: artistic unification of everything that they're doing. They have to represent the playwright and their works. They need to represent the audience and what they want to see. They have to organize the overall working process in setting deadlines and deciding where time needs to be spent. And finally, working with the performers in developing their performances. All of this is done because the director has responsibilities. First of all, they are responsible to theater itself as an institution. They have a responsibility to the company that is producing their work. They have a responsibility to the playwright in executing their ideas and their visions. They have a responsibility to the performers, giving them a safe space to explore, to emote, and to grow. And they have a responsibility to the production team in allowing them to get their work done and give input on the vision as well. And finally, the director has a responsibility to themselves, making sure that they are staying true to their overall vision of the show. Chapter 3 emphasizes the importance of play analysis, making sure that you are looking over the script as a whole. The director needs to read the script to interpret it, develop a vision, and let the vision dictate the design choices, the casting, and let you oversee the rehearsal process and develop all of those performances to match your vision of the show. Start with an examination of the 6 elements of drama as highlighted by Aristotle in Poetics. You need to look at plot, character, theme, language, music, and spectacle. And the type of show that you are doing is going to determine which ones of those are more important than others. And in Chapter 4, we take a look at how the play is constructed. The story is the account of events, the plot is the arrangement of those events and how they play out. Now, hopefully you paid attention in English class in high school, because this is the same type of information. You have the protagonist's goal, previous action, exposition, foreshadowing, an inciting incident, complications, climax, and a resolution, just like every novel you ever read in English class. While you are looking at how that play is constructed, you're able to divide it up into sections that you can work on. You can divide the script up into French scenes, which means that you are dividing up scenes based on when major characters enter and exit, or you can divide it by action units. That's scenes where the motivation for the character stays the same within that specific area. And these can help you develop a better procedure for deciding how rehearsals are going to go. Moving on, we're going to look at the first couple of chapters of Hey Kids, Let's Put on a Show by Bogman. Chapter 1 talks about hiring a director. Now, directors wear a lot of hats, and doubly so when you're working with kids. So in some cases, if a budget is available, then you may consider looking to an outside hire to work with the on-stage elements so that you can focus on a role as a producer. And of course, there's going to be benefits and drawbacks to either directing it yourself or getting an outside hire. Chapter 2 looks at directing your first show. If you decide to direct it yourself, then you have to start with show selection and your budget, because royalties ain't cheap, and you may have to consider going royalty-free for your first few ventures in order to build up money in the account. You also have to consider variable expenses, costumes, set, props. What do you have available? What are you going to have to build or buy? Your production staff, you have to understand, are probably going to be other students, or you're going to have to rely on parent volunteers. But the most important part of your production staff is going to be a stage manager, someone who is super organized. Make sure that you have someone that you can count on. And finally, based off of all this information, let's talk a little bit about show selection and the pre-production process. I've worked in a variety of theater settings, so I've seen what works and I've seen what definitely doesn't. When you're considering what show you need to select, first of all, you need to think about your budget. Obviously, plays are going to be cheaper than musicals. Some things are going to be royalty-free. A lot of times you may have to choose your play just based off of what costumes you actually have available. Second, you need to think about what does your audience want to see. Now, parents are going to love to see anything that their kid is in, but what's going to bring in additional audience outside of your cast family? I have worked with a theater that really wanted to do more drama, but that's just not what their audience was interested in. And after trying and trying to force feed drama to an audience that obviously didn't want it, they finally had to make the decision to be very selective on which dramas they were going to do, how often they did them, and then focus more on comedy. Third, you need to consider your current talent pool. You need to look at the type of people that are constantly showing up for performances and showing up for auditions. If you have maybe only 2 guys and a whole bunch of women that are showing up, you're probably not going to want to do something that is male heavy on the casting. So you're going to have to probably skip newsies, guys and dolls, and things like that until you have more males that are interested in being part of the program. Fourth, think about what is appropriate for that age level. Now, I may do Drowsy Chaperone with a high school group, but I definitely would not do it with a middle school group. You have to think about what is going to be more appropriate with the age that you are overall working with. And finally, think about what appeals to you as a director. I have been in situations where directors were just given a show without any input as to the type of show that they want to direct, because it's much easier to get a vision for something that you are connected to rather than something that is just handed to you. Once you have your script selected, it's time to move into pre-production. The important thing is read, and read some more. You should know that script inside and out. You need to also research the playwright. Think about where they're coming from. Remember, you do have a responsibility to the playwright and their work, so think about what is going to best express the ideas of the playwright. Research the period, the location of the show. Look for colors, set elements, props, costumes that are going to be typical of that period. Overall, you need to know the script so well that you eat, sleep, and breathe that entire script. You need to know that so that you can adequately express your vision to the production team. And in some cases, you're trying to express a vision and direction and things like that to parents and volunteers who have little to no stage experience. So you need to know your script well enough that you're able to share that with them and get them on board with your vision. And finally, you need to think about your production staff. Now, the important thing that I have learned about getting a production staff from parents and volunteers is you have to ask. If they don't know that you need the help, they will assume that you have it under control. So make sure that you are asking for help. I have worked before as both the stage manager and director of the same show that I am working on. It's not an ideal situation. If I had thought to ask someone to be a stage manager, that probably would have made my life a whole lot easier. So don't be afraid to ask for help. That does it for episode 1. If you are interested in purchasing either of these books, I will have links down in the description box of this video where you can check them out for yourself. But for now, that is all. I will catch you next time, and scene.